Hello and welcome to this new video where I will describe something I worked on recently in mission design for IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad. So in most of the missions I design multiplayer missions that have AIs flying in them. So one problem with this approach is that AIs consume CPU resources, so you cannot have a mission with lots of human players in them and also keep lots of AIs. In particular, flying AIs, especially bombers, are very costly in CPU cycles. Still, I would like to be able to have AIs in my missions because they simply help fill the void in the beginning when there's no one on the server, and so people who join early have targets and AIs to play with and against. And it's also true that a similar problem is that servers that aim for having the maximum amount of players, that is 84 players, can't afford even such things as anti-air, for instance, is too costly even there. So the problem is how do you make a mission that still has some amount of interesting things going on and isn't just pure static landscape with static targets? Well, the idea that I had was simply to put AIs in the mission and then remove some of these as CPU usage goes up. So when you run the server, typically, let me start the server here. You have a graph here and some values here that tell you how busy the server is. So this is the tick delay and this is the simulations per second or steps per second, I don't know. And typically you want this one at 50 steps per second, which means that the tick delay has to remain below 20 milliseconds. And as you can see, this is the start of the mission and AIs are being activated one after another. So eventually I think it will reach something like 15 milliseconds. That's not too much problem as long as you have 1 or 2 players on the server, but as the number grows that becomes too much. So, one thing though is that there's a separate tool. Let me show you that tool. So this is the remote console client that allows you to control the server, and in particular what you can do is that you can got disconnected from the server, I don't know why. Let's connect again, probably because I forgot to send the authentication command. So you can do things like ask for the value of the value that you have here, it will appear here. So you can get statistics from this console. And then you can do things like send some command to the server. So basically here you have all the tools that are needed in order to remove AIs that are not essential to the mission if CPU usage goes up. Now, there's one problem though, is typically you want how do you manage this the problem of choosing which AI unit you will deactivate? So here I had an idea, and this is where this group comes in, was that to have priority levels for my AI groups, or for anything that consumes a CPU. So this is a group that implements 3 priorities. This is a low priority, the medium priority, and the high priority. And the thing then is that you can connect several of these groups into a queue. So what happens here, let's just imagine that I have 4 AI flights that are connected to this. The flights are not visible here because this is just something I use for testing. But basically what will happen is that when CPU usage goes too high, we'll then send a command here, which will trigger this thing in the mission. So when this is triggered, then let us see what happens. For this I will show only the selected arrows. So this is triggered, rec kill low is then triggered, which is going to trigger 2 timers. So this timer will kill the unit, and this other timer will will go there, which is going then to do the same thing, but for the next group. So it will request the next group to kill itself. So why do that? The thing is that these two timers here are exclusive, so only one of them is active at any time. So initially, it is not active because of this. So initially, this timer is triggered, which runs this deactivator, which deactivates the node that kills the unit. So if I run this, if I trigger this, while this node is deactivated, it's this node only that is going to have an effect. What it will do is that basically it will pass on the request to kill something to the next group, which will do the same thing, and basically it will do a full round. And the last one here on next low simply goes to back to the first one, but to the higher level, and so on. So that basically allows you to have some dynamic priorities assigned to your groups, and you can set the priority here using those nodes here. So for instance, when I spawn a flight, I will decide that this flight has a high priority. So this node will be cold, which is going to activate the node that goes to unkilled, and deactivate all the nodes on all the other nodes for the other priority levels, so that unkilled is only triggered if I request a kill high here. So how is this used? Well, basically, when I spawn initially, so before my AI group spawns, and maybe I should open another mission to show you what I mean. So the idea is that when before I activate my AI group, the priority will be as it is by default, which is set to no priority. That is, any request to kill the group will be sent on to the next. So let me find such an AI group. I think I have a P2 flight, for instance, that implements this. Here we go. So here is my P2 group, and it has a start P2 timer, which in this case is simply started 30 seconds after the mission start. And you don't see it here, but this is connected to the group that I showed you before. And what it does basically is that it will set the priority node to high. And that's because I don't want my group, ideally I really don't want my group to despawn before it has done what it's supposed to do. So it goes there and attacks an airfield. And after the attack is complete, then this node here, which will be connected to the low priority part, we set the AI the priority group to low again. Maybe I should just spawn a group to show you, just so that I'm not pointing into the emptiness, if I can find it. Where are you? Resource despawn. Here it is. So if I spawn my little group here, basically I will have my start node here connected to this set low priority, and I have the other one over there. Actually, it's the other way around. It will be connected to this one and this one here. The start PE2 is connected to the high priority. So, where is it? The effect of this is basically that when my group spawns, it is spawned as a high priority group, and when its mission is done and it's flying back towards the airfield, it's set to a low priority. So that means that if CPU usage goes high and I need to kill a unit, then if the flight has not gone to its objective yet, the logic is going to try to pick another group that is maybe medium or low priority. And if it manages to kill another unit, then this wall will survive. So I will only remove this group if the server is under very heavy load. On the other hand, once the group has reached and bombed its objective, then it becomes a low priority, which means that if CPU usage goes up, then there's a good chance that this one will be deactivated. But since it has already done its job, then it's not much of a problem. So one downside with that is that it's possible maybe that there is a human player chasing my groups of PE2 there after it has bombed the objective. And if CPU usage goes up then and the group gets killed, then the player will see a group of plane despawn, and that's not very nice. So I mean, it's possible, of course, to include logic that raises the priority of a group when there is a player nearby. This is something one can do. But in the end, of course, you cannot guarantee that a group of AIs is not going to disappear in a visible manner. Of course, it's best if it's a group that is far away from any player that disappears, but you cannot guarantee that. But hopefully this is something that is acceptable to human players. I mean, it's a problem you have with other human players as well. I mean, people disconnect sometimes, either because of bugs or because they just want to go or for whatever reason. So I guess one can see that AI is disconnecting or disappearing to save CPU resources, hopefully something that players can accept. So there's one last subject here, is that like having several of these groups and connecting them is not very pleasant. The chances of doing something wrong somewhere is very high. So what I have done is that I have developed a little program that injects these into an existing mission. So that's why this mission here that I'm showing you, I didn't have this group to start with. It's actually added automatically by this script before I deploy the script on the server. So that was it for the first part of this video, and I will show you now how it looks in the game.